Welcome to What Have You with Rachel Jankovic and Rebecca Merkel. This audio is brought to you by Canon Press.
Welcome back to What Have You. I'm Rachel Jankovic.
I'm Becca Merkel.
Yep. And we made it through the 4th of July. Made it through our big... Becca.
What?
I posted on our...
I saw.
I was not being a hypocrite. I made pies for the 4th of July. But guess who was a hypocrite? Guess who didn't make any pie on the 4th of July?
I delegated covenantally, and Belle made like 900,000 pies in my kitchen.
But only one that came to our house, which was chocolate.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. We have work to do, apparently.
Fine.
No, actually, I was really quite delinquent on getting to the pies.
Yeah.
And then it was my hypocrisy that came over me quickly, and I whizzed out 3 pies. But I think the strawberry rhubarb one was actually really good this time.
Yeah. Well, I feel like strawberry rhubarb pie is a magic elixir.
It's because it's the top.
I love it so much.
It touches everything that pie ought to have, like the tartness and the brightness.
Yeah. And there was a boy at your house for the 4th of July.
A visitor, yeah.
A visitor who, he tasted strawberry rhubarb for the first time. And he was a delight to watch. Because
he's the person I'd like to invite to come back.
Whoa, this is, what is this? Dad, what is this? This is amazing. Then he leaves. Then he comes back a few minutes later and goes, this is mind-blowing. But he's just saying it like to his parents. It was just fabulous.
That's the person I'd like to just extend a warm welcome to always come. Come anytime.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
If you're going to be that kind of an enthusiast, you're always welcome at my table.
Best. It really is.
Yeah, so I think we might try another video like that of something.
Yeah, we should do it. We should be less long-winded next time, but, you know.
Well,
we did cover a lot of territory.
I thought our fatal error was that we didn't think to make the other people who were there cut the apples. Slice things. We could have been done much faster.
It's
but
true.
I think they edited a lot of that out, I assume. I didn't watch it.
Probably.
All right. So, Becca, we need to talk about Called.
Oh, you guys. So, here's the thing. This is time sensitive. So, get out your calendar real quick while we talk.
Act now.
Act
for a limited time.
Yeah. Okay, so here's the thing. For the last few summers, it's relatively new. There's a Worldview conference for teens. It's like high school age, 15 and up, I think. Here in Moscow, it's most of a week. There's lots of activities and teams and talks and all sorts of stuff. And it's a lot of fun. And it's been really popular, and there's a waiting list. Like, it's hard to...
It's really
and it was very maxed out this year. So, and up until yesterday, we were still holding on to hope that it would happen because Idaho has been opening back up and everything. But locally, they clamped back down again, and it became obvious that it's just not going to be able to happen. So instead of it being what it was going to be, they are moving the plenary talks to online. And this is going to be next week. So what is today? Like the 7th?
Today's Tuesday.
July
7th. 7th.
Okay, so it's going to be next week, a week from today. And what they're thinking is if you want, all the students who are signed up are going to get their team t-shirts and everything. They're going to get all that in the mail. But if schools or churches want to host their own, like, mini youth group watch party kind of a thing, you can register for that, and they'll send you t-shirts and stuff. They will send you swag. So,
basically, too bad for us we can't do it in person, but it's a good time for people who couldn't have come in person to be able to participate.
And it was going to be great. Actually, the talks looked like they were going to be really good. So, anyway, if you're interested in that, go to, it's nsa.edu /called conference. I think it's called -conference. But anyhow, it is a bit time sensitive because this is happening next week because they're having to pivot quickly from doing it in person.
They're having to
not.
improvise, adapt, and overcome.
As we all are these days.
Very much so. That's the truth.
Yep.
Yeah, so anyways.
So that's happening. Also, I should tell everyone about this. I got my 2 slabs of marble. It happened. And I had a number of fabulous people contact me and say, if you want me to talk to my friend, I might be able to help you get... Anyway, that was very cool, and I wish I'd thought to mention this on the podcast sooner, but it all came together. I have 2 slabs of marble in my driveway, and we got it home. We had to drive it like 100 miles, and we got it home and got it out of the trailer, and it's in my driveway, and nobody died, and the marble is intact. So
congratulations.
Well, that's a major congratulations. This was
Way to source that.
Quite a time. I mean, I just kept thinking, like, we have a car and a trailer. Think of the people that were trying to get big slabs of marble hither and thither with a donkey and a cart.
Yeah. Yep.
Makes you appreciate those people who built those beautiful, huge, massive things back in the day.
Yeah, so much work went into that kind of thing.
So much work.
So deeply much.
Anyway, so here we are. Rachel?
Yeah, I'm being kind of a dud, I think. I need to, snap to and come up with something to say of interest.
Yeah.
I was telling you on our way here that I have been listening to this audiobook that's 30 hours long and definitely over my head, but still all the same fascinating, and I'm liking it. I feel like the reason it's over my head is because it's an audiobook, for one thing, which means that listening to a history book read out loud, I find denser academic works, you do tend to stop to loiter over a sentence, or where you go back to the beginning of the sentence to make sure you understood that. But when you're listening to an audiobook, it just trots on past you, and you're like, well, I got the main essence of the thing. Luke's been listening to it. It's called, I'm going to double check so I don't, it's quite cool, though. It's called Albion's Seed, and it is about, Albion's Seed. It's 30 hours long. But it's talking about British folkways in America, and it's a really interesting, a historic narrative for how we have different cultures in America that we really do have, Southern culture, Appalachian, Virginia versus New England, but how these people came from regions in Britain, how it was so formative. Yeah. How you even have an accents of people groups, reflections of regions in Britain now. Yeah. And the Southern accent actually has its, and it's amazing. It's just sort of an exploration of how these things, and when he says folkways, he's talking about kind of cultural ways, but he talks about the ways of architecture and love, the sorts of behaviors around those things, and how they originated and how that's actually still active. Yeah. And really interesting. Anyways, one of the things that was cool is that at the same time, so I have to tell you, I haven't even gotten to this part yet. Luke's been listening to it, and he told me about it. So now I'm going to mull it because it's from several hours ahead of where I am.
Okay, all right.
But it's talking about how one people group that would be what would be the Appalachian, probably, the
Crackers.
origin of the rednecks. Yeah, the real cracker redneck situation.
But redneck, I think it's more cracker, because redneck is a little broad. But anyway,
yeah, sure. That the origins of that in that group would talk about their leisure way, recreation, the folk way of leisure, the way the people viewed leisure. That's the origin of where we say just killing time. That they're killing time, and that's still, we all are familiar with that phrase. It's part of American culture to say I'm just killing time. Yeah. But that the Puritans, the Protestants, the Puritans at the same time would talk of redeeming the time. Huh. And that both of those are things that are present in American culture in different places. And probably all of us have used both of those different, we're familiar with both of those. Yeah. The one is like trying to turn a profit on your time or doing something for leisure that will be productive. Yeah. And the other is literally killing the time. And I just thought there
will be nothing left of it when I'm done.
Exactly. Nothing to show. nothing coming back from this. And I thought, what an interesting thing to think about in terms of your entertainment or whatever. Like, are you
killing or redeeming?
Yeah. So one of the other interesting things is that in that culture, the Appalachian thing is that, like, sex before marriage was not really particularly frowned upon. It was kind of just an accepted part of life. So, like, a girl getting pregnant before she was married probably just happened. Okay. But every last ounce of social pressure would be on the man has to marry her. Like, and then it's interesting because that's actually still very present in some parts of American culture, that we're not expecting you to be pure, but we are expecting you to follow this through.
To be respectable now?
Yeah, like, now you've got to clean this thing up or whatever. It just really is interesting. But there's lots of stuff. I was telling Becca, there's a lot of stuff in that Puritan time where you're like, wow. And I was telling her that they had some official man of business, or a man for every 10 households who would come make sure you were living decently and in order in your house. Like, I can't think of any kind of power situation that could be so bad as that one. Like, someone coming to inspect your homes.
Coming to see how decent
to check
you are.
if they're going to need to send you away or not. And then they said they found one man living by himself, and they were like, well, that's against the rules. You can't do that. So he had to find a home to live in 6 weeks with a family unit or go to jail.
Which did he choose?
I'm not sure. He was that Lone Ranger for that time. He was found to be alone, and they were like, nope, can't do that. But I was telling her, I can't even imagine the weird kind of squicky pressure that it would be to have left one country to go try to start a whole new society, trying to hang on to the good things and eradicate the bad things.
I feel like it'd be everybody snapping chalk lines every which.
Oh my word, that is how I felt too. You feel like they would be so. It would be so intense. I mean, intensity in 10 cities. And they were very funny. Like, they're in the Massachusetts. They were in Massachusetts. They would send people away. Like, if people were not meeting their expectations for their new society, they were like, well, you're going to have to go. I think that's really kind of amazing. But, you know.
Yeah.
And
a little cancel culture going back then, too.
Yeah, and it's so fascinating. Like, in Massachusetts, where they all, in that Massachusetts Bay Colony, when they were all there, that it was colder then when they first settled. It was called the mini ice age. It was actually a really cold time. And that was actually really protective. Even though they had a lot of problems, they did not have the diseases. Like, it actually, and it kept the, like, illnesses in water and stuff. Like, there was a lot, like, the problems that faced settlers in, like, Virginia was not the same as New England, because New England had a much, and also that in some places, there was like one woman for every 150 men or something in some, but not the Puritans, who almost all came in family units, like husbands and wives, and they were like really pretty close to just a standard society ratio of men to women. Anyways, really interesting. I'm telling you, it just trots by me on the audio, and I go, wow, and then I'm like, what was that? I would like to quote that, but I have no idea what it said. Or I also need a big map of England, because he's always referring to all the counties in England, and I really don't know where they are. I have no instinct that way. No. So I'm like,
I lived there. I still don't have an instinct.
Yeah, but you can tell that the author is expecting you to sort of know what you're talking about.
But there were like I don't know. I feel like it's a little bit like here we have Latah County is the county, but then there's the Palouse, which is not it's not a governmental thing, it's a terrain thing. And I kind of feel like the same thing happened in England, but I could never keep track of which was which, and there are overlays. Yeah. You know, of what we're talking about.
But that's what I can tell, that my absence of knowledge about that is keeping me back from fully tapping in.
That'll hold you back.
But I recommend it as a bizarre listen, and it really does. It really does make you appreciate your. It really does make you appreciate your life situation, that you're not in that one. I also thought it was really funny.
If you're getting a little tired of 2020.
Yeah, somebody said on there that it was a quote from someone in the book, but said that New Englanders invented the rocking chair so that they could move while sitting. And apparently a bunch of visitors in New England were like, what on earth? They said even the children seemed to only run from place to place, not walk. They were like wildly industrious people. But then it's actually been proven that the climate actually is like optimized for human activity, like energy levels, because of the climate, that they actually were a highly energetic people with a real mission and a goal, and sending out inspectors for family life.
I feel like I could use a little.
I thought the same. I was like, tell me more about this climate that keeps you going. But you can see how that's not the case in all climates. When you have the real hot time, you have whole cultures that are like, let's nap all day.
Yeah. This is where the hammock was invented.
New England is not the land of the siesta. I just thought it was really interesting that that's why.
Yeah.
No,
it's true. The land of the siesta is an interesting piece, because I was quite surprised when we were in France and we had to go somewhere for dinner. So we were like, oh, we should stop and get them a gift on the way, grab something. And there was this little village, so we toddled on into the village. The whole place was shut down, and we were like, well, that's weird. Maybe it's a holiday that we don't know about. It's like, is it Bastille Day? No. That's all we could think of.
Yeah.
Then we were like, maybe it's that time when France quits for weeks and months on end. Like, is that what happens in the summertime? Anyway, turned out no, it was just their daily siesta time. I mean, they don't call it a siesta, I guess, but it's like the endless lunch that they just don't come back until later. But like, we trolled around in the village for quite a while, and then decided that everything was...
It was too late.
We were all boarded up for a holiday. And then now they're just having their nap. Like, what? Who does that?
But those sorts of things, that's part of what's so interesting, is that those things actually are long-standing cultural traditions that are actually inherited from somewhere and enforced by weird social, people thinking this is important.
Because you feel like you could really make a buck if you decided to stay open all lunch, but then you're like, no, probably not, because nobody would come to shop.
Yeah, because everybody enforces it. Also, the Puritans, weirdly, so if you think like Boston and stuff, that is still, that New England elite is 1,000% the direct legacy of.
But I thought that was the kind of Eastern Seaboard. I haven't read the book, just from what I've heard. But they were like the aristocrats who came.
Yeah, but it was also Puritan. These people. Well, he's talking about them being Anglian, like from England. This group, this region, East Anglia. Yeah, right. Whatever. That they were the first people to start, like, the thing where they were deliberately keeping family names, like naming children after their parents was a thing. keeping the families, the elite families marrying the elite families. I mean, it is exactly the society page.
But then the Appalachians, didn't they come from, like, Ireland and...
Yeah, I haven't gotten to that part, but you're going to have to wait till next time we podcast for me to fill you in on more weird deets.
They were the aggressive types who came from the...
Yes, there are the aggressive types, like the people that were the revolutionary, like the people who were always the conscientious objectors in England that settled into the people that we still have now that would love to be in the military, and so, like the fighters.
Those aren't conscientious objectors. That's the opposite of a conscientious objector.
Yes, except for it's just the fighters is what I mean. The fighters who will fight on whatever topic. The fighters.
So conscientious.
But I'm not sure yet because I haven't listened to that part. I'm just telling you, interesting times and things to reflect on, not having to be. It's just like,
alive in the 18th century.
Yeah, I feel like that would have been very stressful. 2020 might have its own special look, but that one is even scarier.
I posted this today. It came up on my Facebook memories, and it made me laugh because it was some road construction by our house, and it's from like 6 years ago, but I'm driving down the road, and there's a road closed sign. It's barricaded off. It says road closed. Then there's two signs, one on either side. It says, no left turn, no right turn. Then there's another sign that says detour with an arrow pointed both directions. So you're like, what is it? And I feel like it's 2020. That's what it is.
2020 in a nutshell.
There's a detour either way. Also, no right, no left. Also, road closed.
I feel like that's going to be, I think that's going to be to riff off of that quote. It's... 2020 in a nutshell, an appropriate receptacle.
Yeah.
Always like.
I know. I would really like it if we look back later on 2020 as being the year of doom and not the 20s.
Man, Becca. We already did there were the roaring 20s, and now what are they going to be, the manic 20s?
The bellowing 20s.
The frantic 20s?
The fussy.
No.
The
I hadn't even thought about
20s.
That. What if it's only the beginning of a fresh new decade of fun?
Where we have all become
all the time
really
tedious
to
petty
each other.
Monsters, to say the least. I think I'm so... You can just be so thankful that God actually knows what he's doing and is in charge.
Yes.
Because, man, there's no hope if you don't think that.
No.
If you don't think that there is an overarching scheme for what's happening here.
Someone who is in control of the virus, and it goes where he wants it to, because, gosh, everyone trying to, like, run around and clear a path for the virus and clear out this other place so the virus doesn't go there. It's like, it's a virus, you guys. It's like, we can't mastermind where the virus goes. It's like trying to control the wind.
For all of our big pompous thoughts that were so incredibly scientific, well, we haven't really mastered this one.
Well, if you think about it, we did get a little above ourselves thinking that we could control the weather. And everybody got there. Like, we all thought, if I just do my part, we'll control the weather. And that is really funny when you think about it. And once we got ourselves convinced that we could control the weather, now we think we can also... We can have a say in where the virus is going to go. I don't know.
I think that there's a lot to give one pause about 2020. But the big takeaway for me has just been the importance. I posted about this the other day, I think on the 4th of July, but that I think a lot about screw tape letters. And you think about how we're living in a time that's just so ripe for temptation opportunities. Like, so if you were screw tape and wormwood, that this should be the time when you'd be rubbing your hands together with glee. Yeah. Like, we have got them now. We are on it. And I think, think about those. And then think about what would discourage and depress wormwood and screw tape, and then do that. And that really actually is important because it's like gratitude, it's joy, it's not getting bogged down in, because I think we have people who are terrified of the virus, and we have people who are terrified of the loss of liberty that appears to be going hand in hand with viral protection work.
Yeah.
And then we have people who split their time on which thing to be more afraid of. But we're really struggling to just not be afraid, right? To just give it to God.
But to still care. That's the thing.
To care, to pray, to worship, to, to be
to have
really,
an opinion without being terrified.
Yeah. And anyways, my point is, it's time to thwart.
Well, I think what's interesting is that God specifically told us how to fight things like this, and it is the armor of God.
Right.
And so, if you do want to actually fight the situation, that's how you're going to do it. Because we don't wrestle against flesh and blood, but against principalities and powers, and that is how you deal with things that are way above your pay grade. That's how you deal with it.
Yes. And, this is off topic except for you said principalities and powers. I often think that the part that really blows the mind reading the book of Daniel is the part where Daniel's terrified and Daniel is praying.
Yeah.
And then
in
comes an angel who's like, I was trying to get here for a couple of days, but I've been...
weeks. It's 21 days.
He's like, I've been fighting the Prince of Persia, right?
Yeah.
He's like, I've just been not able to get through the Prince of Persia,
But not until your prince, Michael, came and helped me.
Yes.
And now I made it here.
But, got through.
But he says, but you were heard 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, it was trying to get to you to tell you you were heard. And I think that right there isn't, that is a fascinating moment.
Plus, I think, I might be wrong, I'd have to go back and look, but I'm pretty sure that guy, the one who showed up there, I don't think we hear his name, because he says your prince, Michael.
Yeah, and I think one time I thought it was the Archangel Michael, but it wasn't.
No, because Michael came and helped him.
I think that Michael, I don't think is the Archangel.
Why?
I don't know, I think
it
whatever.
was.
Clearly, I think I thought it was an Archangel who, I was like, it's just beyond intense. But
I think it was the Archangel Michael is the Prince of Israel. And
I don't know. I think
Persia.
I just remember someone saying, no, it's not the Archangel. And I was like,
okay,
oh, well, maybe
I'll need to go back and...
But my point is, that is an incredible, it's just an incredible and complex
and old covenant governmental structure.
Yeah, but I know, but I think I'm trying to say that there are times when being afraid would have made more sense. And now that we know that there's no obstacles quite like that anymore.
No, because Christ has overcome the principalities and powers. And so actually there is a new structure, there is a new system of governance than there used to be.
Yes, totally. Well, and that it was so intense because that was what was happening at that time, right? Mm-hmm. So overthrow of that. Well, that was a random topic shift, but I wanted to say it because what you said reminded me of it. Thought, if you want to imagine a scary time to have been.
Well, but in other mentions about the Archangel Michael, the one I always wish we knew more about is when he was disputing with Satan about the body of Moses. Mm-hmm. And during that time, he did not bring a reviling accusation against him or something like that. Isn't that what it says in Jude?
Yeah.
But he didn't. So if even Michael, when disputing with Satan about the body of Moses, does not speak disrespectfully.
Wait, hang on. When what was happening?
I know, you're like, could we get a footnote about that? But that also just... Since we're shoestringing topics along
but
here,
Moses is the one that
I was going to
say...
It's
interesting to have... Because Moses was buried by God.
Well, Well, apparently they had
there was a dust up about
something.
that.
But the thing is that's the passage that was cited when we were young, and there was that song going around, which I don't know if anyone ever sings anymore, but it has the verse about if the devil doesn't like it, he can sit on a tack. And and we were not allowed to sing that. And so we had to, speaking of conscientiously objecting, we had to bow out when it came to that verse.
Have I told the story on here before about my big conscientious object where I
It's pretty good. It is pretty good.
I don't know which one you're talking about. If you're talking about the time I refused to sing Psalm
at the
100,
youth group?
no, it was in 5th grade. I bowed out of singing Psalm 100. And the teacher was like, Rachel, why won't you sing this? I think it was in 5th grade. Why are you refusing to sing this? I was like, I think it's disrespectful. And they were like, why? And it was because I thought that people were saying, for the Lordy is God, instead of the Lord He is God. I thought it was a nickname for the Lord that I felt we shouldn't be using. And I stand by that decision had that been the case. But no, then worse, I went with a friend to her youth group.
This is the one I was thinking of.
And there was an edition of Spring Up a Well going around at the time where there was a lot of emphasis on the hand motions of splish, splash, splish, splash.
Yeah.
And some people doing the slow splishes and some people doing the fast splishes. And there's a verse in that one where it talks about the blood of Jesus, and then
the whole
unfortunately
song is, isn't it?
Well, no, because, like, if you're just gonna splish splash when you say, spring up a well, into my soul, spring up a well and make me whole.
Okay.
You can, one presumes we're speaking of water there, but when you get to the blood of Christ, and you're asking people to do irreverent splishing and splashings, it's a problem. So there I was, in the youth group, with a friend, and I was like, well, I'm going to have to not sing this one. I'm going to have to refuse. So I didn't. And the youth group leader calls me out. First, he makes an announcement that if anyone is caught not singing, they're going to have to get up and sing a solo of it. That was good. So he makes that announcement first. Then he says, let's sing Spring Up a Well, which I already knew was the one I couldn't sing. It was like everything was funneling me into the world's most awkward experience. Because I didn't belong in this youth group anyways. I didn't know the other kids. I was just there with a friend.
Yeah.
I was not the person who fit in anyways. So there I was. And then Rachel, I see you're not singing. Why are you not singing? And I'm, because I think it's disrespectful.
Did he let you off?
He didn't make me, I wouldn't have sung it, so he didn't try to make me sing it as a person ahead
very
of...
awkward.
Yeah, I was thinking the other day I have this anecdote from my past about the time when I was young, when I was fired from a volunteer position. And it was an interdenominational ministry. And I was young, and I was also feeling like it was really important that I be really aware. I was young, and I was also aware of the fact that we were not typical Christians.
Sure.
I knew our family cared about things.
We don't do the motions on that verse.
We're the people who might say no to Spring Up a Well. We're also the kind of people who say no to a lot of other things.
And the devil doesn't like it, he can sit on a
We
tack.
say no to that.
We don't
But
sing
I think
that
I
one.
was more like, I was just aware of, I had not done much co-laboring with Christians from really different backgrounds. So I was trying to be really courteous, giving the benefit of the doubts, really constantly making up stories and anecdotes to accommodate what made no sense to me that they were saying. There were just things that I was really working against my own intuition on it to try to give Christian women the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah.
Because they would tell me something that was going on and I would be thinking, that's insane. You can't possibly be living a moral life. But then I would tell myself, don't be judgy. Don't be that person who...
Right.
So I went through a long time like this. And anyways, when it cracked, when the story came to fruition and that, I confronted someone on their sin. And I don't think I've ever before or after been as angry as I was at that time. I think that was my angriest anger of all. Like, really, genuinely. I think that phrase, ringing appeal over someone.
Yeah.
That I did that. I did not throw anything. But I was so upset because when it finally got to be the point where I couldn't not just say, hey, I think you're probably living in sin here.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
When it had finally gotten there, it had been through so much personal effort of mine to not believe that. And I think that I felt like long have I labored to not think you're just immoral, but you are. And anyways, it was a splashing moment. But the thing that I remember, and I think that this is really interesting, is that it was a really formative experience for me because I can remember, because I confronted someone about their sin, and then I said that she was going to have to handle it, or I would tell on her to more people who would have authority to do something about it.
Right.
Because I'd reached that point in the situation, then she did end up, that part of the situation resolved, but someone else who was not a fan of me, who fired me, took over. So when she called me, so I was 18, and I'm like on the phone with someone who's probably like maybe 40, maybe 30s, just rebuking me up one side and down the other, like so, and all of my guilt feelings were firing because when people accuse you of things that you think would be awful of you, or they're just using the tone of voice that is expecting to generate guilt in you, or whatever. And when I think back on that, I think it was such a funny and formative time that I remember actually sobbing on the phone with her, saying, I will not apologize for this. And I was like, wow, that's really a treat. It upset me a lot. It was not like a thing that just was easy.
Right.
It was not just easy to be accused of that.
Right.
Because I was being accused of a lot of things. Like there were a lot of things that were like, specifically, we did not ask you to keep us accountable. And, just stuff that's like, you actually don't have, you can't say you don't want another Christian to notice you.
Well, I had very different in one way, but a similar thing go down just on Saturday because I went to Walmart, as one does. I had to grab something. I was on my way in. I had a mask in my purse, which if Walmart had asked me to put on, I was ready to do it if they asked me. I didn't see any signs. I see the greeter. I say hello, and he says hello, and nothing. So I went on in.
To be clear, that in Moscow right now, there's an order for 6 feet of distance or a mask.
Yeah. So if you are unable to social distance, you have to wear a mask.
But there is an or in there.
But also that was fresh, brand new. So
right.
Anyway, so I go in, and then I suddenly was like, I forgot a cart. So because I remembered something else. Like I was going in for one thing, then I remembered something else. So I was like, I should go back and get a cart. So I'm on my way back out the door at this point, but I'm still inside the store, but kind of right there in the meet and greet time in Walmart on Saturday at noon. So it's real busy.
Mm-hmm.
I'm the only person who isn't wearing a mask, and a lady just comes up and starts reaming me in the middle of Walmart. And same thing, trying to make me feel really guilty.
Yeah,
but she was like, I have a lung condition, and it's going to be your fault if I get sick. And everything. And she's trying to hand me a mask and make me put it on. Mm-hmm. And So I was like, I'm so sorry that you have a lung condition. And she was so angry and so like, no, don't be sorry. Put the mask on. It's not that hard. And I just was like, this is not okay. This is not all right social discourse wise. This is not how we should be behaving to one another in public now. So I'm trying to just be like, no thanks, you can keep it, and thanks anyways. I'm actually going to head out the door here right now, and she will not let it go, and she's getting louder, and a crowd is gathering around, and she's holding this mask out and trying to make me put it on, and it was just like her shouting at me that there is a law. But the thing is she was just a random patroller. She wasn't like in any kind of authority, and I just was in that thing where she was clearly working the guilt angle. Like, you have to feel guilty because when I die, is going to be your fault because
my blood is on your head.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Right. And so it is very difficult in that moment. Like, it would be so easy to just be like, oh, I'm so sorry. Okay, yes, I'll just put that on. Oh, okay, you didn't want me to say that you're in sin. I'm so sorry. I'll just forget I mentioned it.
Well, that's the thing. It's like, oh, please forgive me for upsetting your complicated network of sin covering up, which is, but the pressure to do that is huge. And all of you who are listening, I'm sure have had situations like this where people are making you feel unloving for not saying someone's a woman when they're a man, or making you feel unloving for not wanting a gay couple to spend the night in your house, or thinking that, like the pressure that gets put on you and how much you have to just be like, actually, no.
Yeah. And the thing is, I get that, like, your situation and mine are wildly different in one way. But the thing is it's really important to not allow yourself to feel guilty if it's not something that God wants you to feel guilty for.
Right.
And
like, if more I had mundane, less cultural shaking sorts of ways, Christian women are epic at manipulating one another emotionally. And to have, it's such a good thing to not give in to false guilt about stuff. Like, there's a lot of kind of like, I don't feel adequately loved.
Right.
And then you're like, oh no, I'm so sorry. Right. But you have to ask yourself, did you do something unloving to that person? Or are they just working it?
Right.
Are they working the angles?
Yeah. And the thing is like, if I had gone up to that woman and sneezed on her food or something, like, that's very different. But she just sort of accosted me out of the blue and was screaming at me. And the thing is to give into that is, whatever you think about the mask situation, that's a very, very particular form of coercion that I just don't think Christians should have any business.
Also, another version of that is that, because of course putting the mask on is one thing, but there's always different little like, you have to do this, or and so like in Christian circles, sometimes people are like, you need to apologize for having hurt someone's feelings. Yeah. And then one of the interesting things will be, if you examine the situation and you know that you were not in sin, like, you were not, there was no malice, there was no, like, you actively love that person, you have no, like, you don't need to confess anything because it was not a sin, then people will say all the time, do the hard thing and apologize. But anyone who has been in a situation where they refuse to apologize in that kind of context knows that it is by far the harder path to take. Yeah. In the same way as just accommodating petty coercion is not that's not the hard thing. That's the easy thing.
No, because to be honest, like, in that moment, it would have been way easier for me to be like, oh, I have a mask right here. I'll put it on. Let me just put it on. Because a crowd is gathering around. She's shouting at me. She won't let go. Like, the whole thing was being absolutely extra and not at all my favorite.
No.
And I just was trying to be like, well, I'm going to head out and you have a good day and thanks anyways. And that is actually
much uncomfortable.
Way harder. Or, actually saying to someone, are you sleeping with your boyfriend? That's way harder than just overlooking it.
12,000 times harder to go be the person to have to take that awful step. And then it was so, the whole situation is so disturbing and upsetting, but the reality is that is the Christian path is not to, actually, this blew by in the Albion seed. It was one of the things I would have gone back and read again, because he was referencing keratos, which I think is, I'm assuming it's a Greek word, but he was saying it was, which is why I was wishing, anyways, like charity, about the origin of Christian charity.
Okay.
Anyways, he was saying that it was an expectation in the Puritan society that part of the give and take of society was receiving and giving admonitions. That was an expectation of Christian charity, was not to not touch on each other's problems, but to actually be both good at receiving it and good at giving it when needed.
But also, I would say giving admonitions is different than becoming the rogue bully in Walmart, which is kind of...
I didn't mean that person.
No, but I'm just saying, actually, because there are some Christians, like, we're talking about it being the harder path to like step out and say the difficult thing. But there are other people who feel that they have the spiritual gift of rebuke, who do like to go around with the fly swatter and
for all of 2020's year of making fun of Karens. We are actually in the business of producing Karens by the truckload.
Oh, I know. And so anyway, I'm just saying, like, some people might, the hard thing for them might be actually to dial it back. Because giving admonitions
if you actually love to rebuke, then that's not a good thing.
Are you the kind of person who wishes they were the parking
meter maiden?
The one who could go around writing tickets? Because if you're that person, probably you don't need to rebuke more.
Alternatively, are you the person who wishes you could go around just giving free hugs to people and pouring on the affection? Then probably you might need to, any direction you lean hard, you need to lean against.
Yeah.
I've often quoted that reporter that said, do you have a thick skin? It's like, no, I just have different priorities.
Yeah.
Like, it's not so much about enjoying the conflict as it is about caring about something else.
Yeah.
More. But I do think that there are people who just enjoy the conflict.
Oh, there are.
That's certainly not what
Or
we
they
hope
love
for.
going around pointing out other people's failings. And that is, that's a very different situation.
I think the real problem with pointing out everyone else's failings is just that you're missing the best show, which is closest to home. It's like, don't you have enough to do right there? Why do you think they're zipping on these tracksuits to the tree trunks? Is it deer prevention?
No, but it's...
The city truck is here, guys,
something?
just so you know, putting on little tarp skirts on some trees.
Yeah. Gophers? I don't know.
Goblin.
Beavers?
Could be anything. Anyways, I think that problem, and I guess we had mentioned, Becca, maybe we should talk about that being slandered or what, like, and this is kind of part of that. It's just like refusing to feel guilt for things that you can't control, or like Dad said that one time when Mom was like, Dad, it's just lies, because our church has been featured again in the front page of the newspaper.
Well, and to just add some context, the new mask law in town is likely because our church met. And they put it on the front page of the paper.
They're making a deal about our church and also about the unsafety of having us in the town. Yeah. And also exposing... There's church member businesses.
They're doing a full doxing thing. They're publishing people's phone numbers. They're telling everyone to boycott Christians.
This is a time
not Christians. People in our church, Christians.
No, but this is just a time where we are facing, not that it is severe persecution, but it is actually as severe as it could be. Like, it's as severe as the people who want to persecute us have access to, if that makes sense. If they could run us out of town and burn our houses down, I think they probably would. But they can't.
There was somebody advocating that on Twitter yesterday to burn New St. Andrews to the ground. Yep.
Well, but that'll be fun for you.
It's actually quite legit. They're publishing people's phone numbers. No, but the point is,
just because they don't actually have the strength to do worse is not... it is not because they don't have the desire.
But where is it? Is it in 1 Peter that says, like, brethren, do not think it strange concerning the fiery trial?
No,
it's just like, here's the thing. I keep wanting to be like, this is so crazy. And it's like, don't think it's strange.
It's actually not crazy. It's just life of being a Christian.
Yeah.
And
so anyway, that explains perhaps some of the context of the mask situation, because still to this day, we've not had a single case go into the hospital, as far as I've heard, right?
I don't think we've had any.
No.
Our hospital has had an extra emergency tent up the whole time, and we've had nobody at all in the hospital.
One. So it's not like we're living in the fumes of COVID, right?
Well, no, I have no doubt that it will continue to grow here.
Yeah,
It's just also whatever.
Anyway.
But the point is it's not.
There's quite a lot more packed into our current moment.
Right. It's funny,
here.
and the loathing for people in our church has become somewhat pronounced. In some quarters, like there are people who are just so angry about our church being here. But anyways, the point is, sometime years ago when something kind of similar to this was happening, Mom was like, Doug, but it's just lies. Because it is actually remarkable to pick up a newspaper, like a newspaper, and read things that are complete and total untruths about you in it. And all the way back in the day, this happened when they did a news story on a conference that we were having here that was a conference on the American Revolution and the French Revolution. It was on
Revolution in general. And like the Marxist Revolution.
Yeah, but it was a history conference on Revolution. But they busted up a news story that it was a conference on slavery, advocating slavery, which it just never was in thought or deed or anything. It never had been. But that news story was actually picked up by the Associated Press. So you can still find it as a matter of public record that we were having a conference on slavery, and we weren't. Ever. It didn't ever happen. And the University of Idaho, a bunch of professors gave their students extra credit to come protest our conference on slavery, which we were never having. It was so weird. It was basically not weird, though, as Becca says. It was not weird. But my point is, all of those things, you can still find just the most unsightly lies about us. Or you can find that I'm a grievous heretic who teaches justification by your best effort. It just makes me laugh because you're like, what? No, never did. Never have. Never never will.
But you were finishing your story there.
Mom was like, but they're just lies. And as Dad said, he was like, yeah, but Nancy, that is their weapon. That is what they have to fight with. And why would we think the unbelievers would fight with the truth? Because that's never been their MO. And actually, that's a thing that I tell my little kids. Most of my kids are bigger than this now, but the two littlest. Where I just say, if you tell a lie and you get away with it, it is, maybe your parents don't see it, but God sees it. And it's like if you have two football teams playing, lies are the uniform of the enemy. And truth is the uniform of God's people. God sees you running over to the locker room of the enemy and getting a different jersey on. He sees it. It doesn't matter. You don't fight for the enemy. You don't use the enemy's tools. You don't do it. So,
exactly. And I do think that it's, there's a lot that the New Testament says about being slandered, because that is an old play that the enemy runs. And being slandered by definition means they're telling lies about you. And it doesn't matter how petty it is. They might be saying you don't care about other people's lives. You don't care about your neighbor. You don't care about keeping people, whatever it is. If it's a lie and you're being slandered, don't worry about it, because actually give it to God. And not just that, count it all joy. Like you're supposed to be exceeding glad when this happens.
I want to say something though, because Lady Wisdom and Lady Folly are both out in the marketplace, like out in the streets, crying out to everyone. And I would say that's our social discourse, right? We have these streets of all these different people crying out. And in talking about lies and slander, that we're talking about the people who are deliberately trying to sell lies in the marketplace. But there's a awful lot more Christian women who are not doing that, but who are the first, they're there bidding on them, snatching them up, taking them home, and that is the reason why, especially in this age of such politicized writing and news and all of these things, that Christians need to be so disinterested in sensationalized, sometimes you'll open up something will come across your way, like a much shared story or something. And you think, but how do I know that that's what happened? How do we, why would we be citing this could so easily be just lies? And, well, you and I have said that before, that, having been lied about all over the internet makes you not believe the things that people breathlessly tell you about other people on the internet. You're just like, yeah, but you know what? There's some real choice bits about things I never did. You could drum up an article of sensational bad deeds that I'd never even heard of that I'm guilty for. And I'm just saying, it's really important that Christian women be so anchored in God's word and the basics of our faith, and that we're not frantically running around accusing people and snapping up dirty stories on someone's pastor who may have at one time, there's a world of that out there.
Oh, there is. And that is very much, I think, part of the whole play that's being run.
Totally.
Is don't fall for the lies. Don't tell lies. Don't believe lies.
And on the other hand, there's an element of that's real simple. Are you part of the problem or part of the solution? And if you're neither of those things, then it's probably not your business.
Yep.
Right? So,
agreed.
Just maybe don't.
Agreed.
All right, so there's all of that, I guess.
Slung together
I
some
know
things.
that what's going to happen is I'm going to go home and start listening again to that book and then notice all the things I said that were factually inaccurate. But what I'm telling you is it's an interesting book, and you also should listen to it. So
there's your plug, guys.
Yeah, 30 hours of bliss listening to weird historical fragments. All right. Until next time.
Week.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to this week's edition of What Have You. This audio is brought to you in part by New St. Andrews College. Are you wondering if any college will be open this fall? Look no further than New St. Andrews College. Graduating leaders who shape culture, living faithfully under the lordship of Jesus Christ.